Okay, this is the last new thing you're going to learn before your test. You have learned how to graph using a table of values. You've learned how to graph using intercepts. You've learned how to graph using slope-intercept form. You've learned to rewrite it from standard form to slope-intercept form in order to graph it. This is going to be the last way you're going to learn to graph it, graph a linear equation. And that's called point-slope form. This is the one that's not used as often, but it's going to end up being your favorite. So I want you to put the date, the page number, the learning target, and the title in your notes and in the table of contents. And we'll talk a little bit about what point-slope form means and why it is. Not every line that you come across crosses at an exact point. So for example, let's say that I wanted to graph a line that this is like 1 and 2, where my y-intercept was actually 1.5. That's kind of hard to graph. It's not a whole number, so it's kind of ugly. Every line passes through a point at some point. Passes through a whole number point, like 1, 2, 2, 4, whatever. So if I have something with an ugly y-intercept, I need another form to graph it in. So that's why we use the point-slope form. And the reason you're going to like the point-slope form is because you can use any point. When I graph a line in slope-intercept form, the only point that I use is my y-intercept. That's my begin, my starting point. For point-slope form, you can use any line, any point on the graph where it crosses. So if I'm looking at this point-slope form, all you need is m, your slope, and any other point on the graph. x1, y1, remember that just meant ordered pair number 1. The first x value, the first y value. Okay, so just like slope-intercept form, your first step is going to be to plot this first point. The second step is going to be to move your slope, and then you just draw your line in between them. So I promise when we start writing equations, you're going to be much happier this way. Alright, so we're going to look at it. I have y minus, first thing I need to do is figure out what my ordered pair is, my x1, y1, my first point. And when I go to do that, if you look at the formula, y minus y1, what sits behind the minus sign is a 2, which makes my y1 2. My y value is positive 2. My x value. Notice that right here in this formula, right behind the minus sign is my x value. So it's technically the opposite. Notice that it was minus 2, it should be positive 2 when I bring it in here. Notice that it was minus 3, it should be positive 3 when I bring it in here. So this is going to be my first point, my beginning point, the first point that I plot. So I'm going to start at the point 3, 2. 1, 2, 3, up 2. There's my beginning point. From there, just like in slope-intercept form, I'm going to move my slope. Notice the m, the slope, sits right in front of the parentheses. So this is my slope. And it's negative 2. Remember, that's rise over run. And notice that this is a fraction. In order to turn a whole number to a fraction, you always put it over 1. This was negative 2, which means it's going to go down 2 and to the right 1. So from this point, I'm going to go down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1. And if I wanted to make some more points on the left side, on the opposite side, I would just do the exact opposite. Instead of going down and to the right, I would go up 2 and to the left. And those will form a straight line. So I'm going to take my line, my ruler, and I'm going to draw a straight line between all of those points. And that is the answer. Okay, so like I said, you're going to be a little uncomfortable with using this at first, but when we have to write the equation of a line, I promise it's going to be much easier and you will be much happier with it. Alright, so example 2. I need to figure out what my starting point is, my x1, y1. But I want you to notice that instead of being y minus y1, this is y plus 4. Well, another way to write plus 4 would be minus negative 4. Remember, because minus negative, I would just change that to plus positive, which is the same thing as y plus positive 4. So I'm going to change that to y minus negative 4. And then I have equals the slope, negative 3/4, times x minus x1, 2. So now when I'm writing my point, my x1, y1, my x value sits behind this minus sign with the x. Remember, it's the opposite. This is minus 2, so my x value should be plus 2. Then look here. That should be the opposite. It should be negative 4, because like I said, this should be the opposite. Since it was minus 2, it'll be positive 2. Since this is plus 4, it's going to be negative 4. And you can see that here now. Y minus y negative 4. Okay, so my first ordered pair is going to be the point 2, negative 4. Then from there, I'm going to move my slope. M equals negative 3/4. This is my rise over run. And again, it's negative. So instead of going up 3, I'm going to go down 3. And I'm going to run to the right 4. So from there, you're going to go down 1, 2, 3. Write 1, 2, 3, 4. Plot your point. Down 1, 2, 3. Write 1, 2, 3, 4. Plot your point. If I wanted to make more points, I would do the opposite from my beginning. Instead of going down 3, right 4, I would go up 1, 2, 3, left 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I could just draw my line between all of those points. And that is my answer.